2021 budget passed without debate. Parliament adjourned to April 2021. And opposition withdraws application to stay today's sitting.
This is National EMTV News with Shamaine Poriambep.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Tuesday's news. After last week's attempt to block the budget, form a new government and adjourn Parliament to December 1st, Speaker of the House, Job Pomat, recalled Parliament this morning with 50 members in the House. They passed a deficit budget of 19.6 billion kina through voices, despite an absence of parliamentary opposition to debate the budget, as is the case. The government is expecting revenue of close to 13 billion kina with an expenditure of 19.6 billion kina, a deficit of 6.6 billion kina. Parliament was then adjourned to April 2021. Ruth Rungula reports.
To the Treasurer Yenling Stuckey, this 13 billion kina revenue, or 12.99 billion kina to be exact, is an increase of 1.6 billion kina, or 14.4%, and he says they expect revenues to increase more than expenditure. Stuckey further stated that the government will take actions to support revenue growth, and this includes a range of customs penalties to stop illegal trade. The 2021 budget expenditure is set at 19.6 billion kina, and while no budget documents were available, Stuckey in a statement said the major source of expenditure increase were to fund a 600 million kina in round 2 of COVID-19 activities, something that needs further clarification, and to fund increased repayment of areas.
So there will be no big announcements of new initiatives in this budget. Rather, a wise and steady hand, consolidating our economic and budget situation.
Stuckey added the 2021 budget continues to give priority to health, education and law and order, and supporting activities that will build growth. He expects the 2021 budget to grow by 1 billion kina from the 2020 supplementary budget. The 2021 budget funding for the Connect PNG program is 300 million kina. He also admitted that the government does experience problems in implementing budgets. Cash flow management is one problem that delays the implementation of budgeted items, and he says they're working to fix this. The deficit this year will be 6.6 billion kina, but Stuckey expects this to decline.
The deficit declined to 8.1% in the supplementary budget, 7.3% this year, 5.3% in 2022, 3.2% in 2023, and then sustainable levels of around 2% for the following years. This is a very rapid turnaround.
PNG hit a high 9% deficit in April this year due to COVID-19, but with plans to reduce it to 2% by 2023. He also expects the debt to GDP level to drop in 2021. Again, the government says the growth in debt reflects budget deficit legacies, what it claims as hidden areas, and COVID-19. However, Treasury is forecasting the country's economy to grow by over 10.5%, from 80.6 billion kina to 90.3 billion kina, and expects this growth to continue to 2022 to over 10%, lifting the size of the economy to 99.4 billion kina. Stuckey says if projects like the Wafi, Golpu, Papua LNG, Pinyang and the Mayu resources move to final investment decisions, it will further improve economic growth. Meantime, Clerk of Parliament Kala Alpha says a budget can be passed by voice as long as there is quorum. Therefore, he said there was nothing wrong in the passing of the budget today without opposition and without debate. Ruth Rungula, National EMTV News.
The vote of no confidence may have to wait for another 5 months after today's adjournment to April next year. This means effectively members have to decide the fate of the Prime Minister 3 months before the grace 12-month period prior to the writs for the next election. It is understood the opposition is soughting legal redress to see Parliament resumes anytime soon, pursuing its intention to change heads.
That the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye.
Members of Parliament from the government ranks today left happy after they pulled off a technical upset on the floor of Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. At this juncture, I move that Parliament at its rising adjourn until Tuesday, 20th April 2021 at 2 p.m. o'clock.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
The next meeting in Parliament scheduled for next year. It's a win for the government of James Marape, who only last week was short of a majority against a looming vote of no confidence. The delay now means opposition will have to wait until April next year to challenge his seat, which initially was planned by the opposition to unseat the Prime Minister at around December this year. Prime Minister James Marape assumed office on May 30th, 2019. He's been in office for 17 months, which means the 18 months grace period before a challenge within Parliament is due on November 30th this year. So effectively, the opposition pushed for the sitting dates to the 1st of next month. That, of course, has been overturned today, according to political commentator Michael Kabuni from the University of Papua New Guinea. No vote of no confidence will be possible towards the end of July next year, as the 12 months grace period prior to the 2022 national election comes into play. When Parliament does sit on the proposed date, April 20th, 2021, opposition will have a 3-month tight window to change the Prime Minister. Prime Minister James Marape, for now, is comfortable knowing his seat is guaranteed until next year. Meanwhile, the opposition sought in legal means to rectify and recall Parliament before December, with former Prime Minister Peter O'Neill seen today at the courts. Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
While members of the opposition are camping in Vanimo, lawyers representing them have withdrawn an application filed today to stay today's Parliament sitting and declare it illegal. Young and William lawyers say this is because of the turn of events at the Parliament House. According to Young and William lawyers, the application for an injunction to restrain the Parliament sitting this morning had to be withdrawn because events had overtaken the application. This morning, while the government MPs with Prime Minister James Marape met in Parliament, as requested by the Speaker yesterday, opposition MP and former Prime Minister Peter O'Neill was at the courthouse.
So Marape and the Speaker are making a mockery of the parliamentary system, the mandate of our people, the democracy that we have enjoyed for the last 45 years. This has never happened before. A Prime Minister knowingly and willingly, with the colluding of the Speaker, calling Parliament without Parliament approving it.
While O'Neill and his lawyers were in the process of seeking to stay the Parliament sitting, Parliament convened just after 10 a.m. and passed the 2021 budget and adjourned the Parliament to April 20th, 2021. O'Neill believes this process is also illegal.
Today they are trying to pass a budget. They're trying to pass a budget which is not printed. It is illegal. Most of the enabling legislations are still in printing. Government printer is not finished printing the budget. Why the rush? Why the rush?
This turn of events at Parliament House forced the lawyers to withdraw the application and relook at it. Young and William lawyers has indicated they will refile the application as soon as they get everything in order. O'Neill said the court must enable where democracy has been abused and must correct it according to the Constitution. Meanwhile, former Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has accused Prime Minister James Marape of bribing MPs. While speaking to the media outside in court today, Mr. O'Neill alleged that Finance and Treasury is printing checks to bribe MPs, something he says has never happened in the history of this country.
And of course, today we are hearing that they are printing checks in the Treasury, printing checks in the Finance Department to use to politically bribe members of Parliament. This has never happened before in our history of our country. Our founding fathers and former prime ministers and former governments have never ever done this. If there's supposed to be a change in government or transition in power, it has happened smoothly. Marape and his team must realize that this is not Tari, this is not Ella, where rule of law does not apply. Rule of law must apply in this country.
We have yet to get a response from Prime Minister James Marape on these allegations. Former Chief Justice Arnold Ahmed says a vote of no confidence is conventional. He says if numbers are against the Marape-led government, normal process must apply. Sir Arnold shared his thoughts yesterday.
Votes of no confidence in conventional democracies that we have adopted from the Westminster model is by blocking the budget, by blocking constitutional amendment. That's virtually a vote of no confidence. If the government has the numbers to be able to get those legislations and budget through like it was going to this week, and members are disaffected, they vote with the opposition faction and block that, that's essentially a vote of no confidence. In the traditional model, like in Australia, UK, in New Zealand, when it happens, Prime Minister and the ruling party in government does not have the confidence of the House, and you would expect the Prime Minister to tender his resignation to the head of state and call for either fresh elections or what's called in the Australian scene a spill, that it may be within the party that a leadership changes, as you know happened in Australia.
Among stories after the break, NT Sand mining campaigners issue letter of objection to the Mineral Resources Authority. Stay with us for the details. Welcome back to the news. Former Chief Justice Arnold Ahmed and NT Sand mining campaigner Wenceslas Mangun have presented a letter of objection to the Mineral Resources Authority over sand mining in Madang. The letter was handed over to the MRA in Port Moresby. This comes after strong support from the Sumkar MP, who said the project will not happen.
The anti-sand mining campaign headed by communities in the Sumgilba local level government area in Madang has been backed by former Governor and former Chief Justice Sir Arnold Ahmed. He wrote a letter of objection to the Mineral Resources Authority expressing the community's opposition to the proposed sand mining project along the north coast of Madang.
It's a gross violation of our constitutional right to a fair, free, prior, informed consent. And so we are putting to MRA, the Managing Director and the Registrar of Tenements, we suggest to you that you have not complied with the requirements of the Mining Act, Section 108(1), to conduct sufficient number of hearings in sufficient number of locations so that a good majority of the people potentially likely to be impacted and affected to have had a say.
This is the second letter of objection. This letter will be given to the MRA Managing Director, who is also Chairman of the Mining Advisory Board. He will be expected to take into account the objections and act accordingly. The company proposing to mine is a Singaporean company, New Guinea Sands Limited. It wants to operate on populated areas along a 50-kilometer stretch of the north coast. The objection letter asks the MRA not to issue the exploration license to New Guinea Sands Limited, as more than 10,300 people were not informed of the project.
So we're basically doing awareness at this stage. Now we blog awareness start now, sand mining and come up. So can trade will come up, seabed mining come up, also global seabed mining, we block campaign against him, we block rouse him. Now Narabla trade come up. So we cannot deal with those data issues which scientists crave for unless we protect the beaches and support the communities that share their beaches with the turtles. Plenty time you may talk about conservation, so you may not think you need flow line community, and that's when the conflict arises.
The Mining Advisory Council's meeting will be held at the end of this month. The communities will ask MRA to conduct another warden's hearing. There will be a forum held in Medang on the 27th of this month. Dennis Orere, National EMTV News.
An 8-year-old boy is the youngest amongst 51 families in Goroka district to build proper pit toilets with ventilation pipes as part of the Clean Pella community project in Genevega community. Touching the Untouchable, a local NGO based in Eastern Highlands, is spearheading this project as part of the government's WASH policy. Tekla Gunga reports.
Though located near the Eastern Highlands provincial township of Goroka, Genevega has over the years lacked access to clean water supply and proper sanitation facilities, a struggle that has affected the development of the community, resulting in increased cases of waterborne diseases like typhoid.
Tomorrow, we'll have some typhoid, we'll have some diarrhea.
Through the implementation of the EU WASH Clean Pella community project, the locals have dug up and built 51 proper pit toilets, incorporated by the installation of lids to prevent flies from entering pit toilets and spreading germs. Hand wash stations were also set up outside these pit toilets to promote safer hygiene practices at the village level.
One big play impact got long developing countries, got lo country lo mi play too. Cause stunting full grown inside lo pikinini. Time this la binatan lo pek come inside lo body lo pikinini, stopping growth blong.
As partners in implementing the Clean Pella community project, Touching the Untouchable has engaged environmental health graduates from Divine Word University to lead discussions and awareness campaigns in selected villages.
Inside Genevega community, he got 59 households, which upon triggering Mipla final also, he got 36 toilets tassel. The toilets are unsafe, which means flies can go in and come outside and feed him you me one time pack. So good try me got toilet, that's all you must pass him, road blow fly.
For Genevega, the locals have welcomed the initiative after understanding the importance of a healthy lifestyle. They celebrated their achievements with the presentation of Eastern Highlands coloured balloons to representatives of the implementing partners before receiving their ODF certificate. However, their only concern is the need to access clean water supply.
Now we don't thank you as in this work. Me pa only yet now taking it from me now come here. Opa working this work yet gonna me play strong in this work.
The certification presentation coincided with the unveiling of a signboard to mark the change the village has now adopted.
Toilet now you walk in on the mall get a boost material blue. Behind the 5 years, one em dream blue. Okay, so sad but put him capable blue now walk him this la toilet you dream and lem. You yet but make him.
Through the Behavioral Change Program, championed through a partnership, Genevega community becomes the second out of the targeted 200 communities in the Goroka district to receive the ODF certificate. Their strive to achieve the standard health requirements under the Clean Pella Community Project is a challenge for other communities to also do the same. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News, Goroka.
Mount Hagen-based business Highlands Fresh aims to improve the quality of fresh produce from farm to plate. A workshop was held recently between stakeholders to identify and strengthen the management and supply of produce in the country. Highlands Fresh Managing Director Patrick Duckworth says better quality will take the business partnership with farmers to the next level.
The farmer workshop brought together more than 90 lead farmers in Western Highlands Province. The message was clear: to improve quality of produce and accommodate the rise in demand. For Highlands Fresh, identifying issues within the flow of business is crucial for all.
The message we were trying to get through to the farmers for today was the one most important word is quality. That we're trying to improve the quality and all the processes that go with that.
Highlands Fresh is the agriculture arm of Tiniga Limited, a name associated with Western Highlands. The business mainly supplies fresh produce from the Highlands to other parts of the country. For the business giant, its farmers are the backbone and must understand the essence of proper quality from the farm to packaging, transportation and delivery to retail outlets.
Then all put the workshop or same, mi bla kambung or same, so mi bla kile lo plant is something, so mi bla mamas. All government too, all come stabilize now, all RM disla.
Part of the workshop also covered farming techniques and safety of farmers. With the aim of producing high quality produce, farmers must follow best practices.
You must look out the years, look out the environment too. This is too important too. For farmer cabbage now, whom basta be at live and one the time that's so you must look out in this life, look out in or narrow the line, but again this like too.
With the supply chain to increase with small farmers, Highlands Fresh aims to support its farmers, improve business link and open a better market for farm produce to reach its customers.
One of the things that we're doing now is really making this brand become your brand, our brand, it's Mount Hagen's brand. And it's got to be associated with quality. When anyone sees the brand, they immediately think, that's beautiful broccoli, that's lovely lettuce, that's a beautiful carrot. We know where it's coming from. It's that brand, we know it's going to be fresh.
Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
And now looking at the Nest Fund market report, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.2850 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, the Kina is buying $0.2775 $0.3751 Australian dollars, 0.2259 euro and 28.35 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading lower, coffee closed lower, cocoa and copper closed higher, crude oil is trading higher, palm oil closed lower, and copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 470.63 points higher. The ASX 200 is trading at 13.88 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 10.83 points higher. We'll have more of today's other stories after the break. Welcome back to the news. With the increasing population in Lae comes the stress on policing. Lae Police Boss Chris Kunyanban highlighted this as one of the major challenges faced by police. In the absence of sufficient manpower, Lae Police have set up CCTV cameras to monitor the main bus stop areas. Maintaining and improving this system, however, will need funding.
This is an average day in Lae. Commuters crowding at the main bus stops to catch PMVs. Within the crowded areas are screaming bus crews, impatient drivers, and there are also street vendors and petty criminals who take advantage of these crowded spots. In the past few months, the rate of petty crime has increased. Police have been monitoring these areas. However, Leh Metropolitan Commander Chris Kunyanban says policing a large population with limited manpower is an everyday challenge.
The second standard number of amaslo policeman must look at him amaslo man. But now you look here, plan straight.
In the absence of sufficient manpower, CCTV cameras were set up to monitor the bus stops. While arrests have been made using footage from the cameras, improving and maintaining the CCTV system will need funding.
If we're going to buy quality CCTV for town, it will cost us half a mil, 500,000, and then we can have another 500,000 to cater for the shortfalls like the technical issues and all kinds something was them.
Taking into account concerns from the public in a petition presented to Leh Police last week, Kunyanban says a lot of support is needed to carry out policing effectively. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
2 senior public servants who were arrested for allegedly misusing funds belonging to the Manam Restoration Authority are yet to be suspended from office. Acting Provincial Administrator Marcus Caucus said he is in the process of discharging them from their duties. Joseph Kunda Bonomane, the former Deputy Provincial Administrator, and former Provincial Finance Manager Paul Amera were arrested last week, charged and released on 2,000 kina bail each.
Last Thursday, the Department of Personnel Management, in a letter to the Acting Provincial Administrator, strongly recommended the suspension of the 2 officers. The letter called for disciplinary process to be executed under the Public Service Management Act of 1995 as amended, and the Public Service General Orders must apply in dealing with the officers.
Public Service General Order and the Public Service Management Act, me must apply now. Friday, Secretary Blong, Department Blong Personal Management, and recommend him strong me must apply, which me thinking finish long apply. Now me play stop now the process long give him now.
The letter outlines that it is a serious matter and is important that Mr. Kachau deals with the public servants under his care. The Department of Personnel Management, through the Office of the Secretariat, recommended that the 2 officers be suspended from office with pay. They will be suspended until their cases are cleared, dealt with by the police and the courts.
As it is, in general, maybe no guilty long spending money blow mana mi conche lo pocket blow mi blow one no iko long line family line no narbla money iko lo mana so that sandi blow koto tok mi no mi gembani to go display. But applying process long Public Service General Order na Management Act, yes, maybe starting process for suspension and charge.
Both men were charged for the misuse of 6 million kina of Manam funds that was issued towards the end of 2018, intended to resettle Manam Islanders living in the care centers. Meanwhile, Assistant Commissioner of Police for the Northern Command, Peter Guinness, says the investigation will continue and others implicated will also be arrested and charged if the evidence permits. Martha Louise, National EMTV News, Madang.
Trukai Sports is next. Fidelis Sukina has the details.
Thank you, Charmaine. Pro boxer Junior Kaukoraka in training for an international bout, and athletics in Kimbe wrap up. Those stories in Trukai Sports when we come back.
Trukai Sports.
Good night and welcome to Trukai Sports. Junior Kaukoraka earned a World Boxing Council title shot this year, but due to COVID-19 forced lockdowns, His bout has been delayed 2 times this year. Raka, who is PNG's best shot of a WBC title, is still hard at training and is hoping the bout with his Philippines opponent can come into fruition towards the end of this year under the Oceania Fight Promotions. Junior Kauko Raka, hailed by many in the professional boxing scene in Papua New Guinea as the prodigy of PNG professional boxing.
And still undefeated!
He has enjoyed a recent rise to the top as PNG's pro boxing made its way back to the center stage. A tough lightweight boxer with an impressive resume.
Fight Blumi, now 9 fights, na 8 KO na 1 plus technical draw. Popla International na 5 plus local. So Popla International 2 plus Philippines, which is where Alan Wallespin, where been come 2 plus time na mi been winning mem, and then Rafael Dimara. M2 been come 2 plus time na mi been winning mem.
With commendable wins under Oceania Fight Promotions, this gave the leverage for the 27-year-old for a World Boxing Council title shot. The bout was heavily promoted by Oceania Fight Promotions as the main event, with Raka to take on Roldan Aldea of the Philippines for the WBC ABCA Silver Lightweight Championship, slated for April this year, but COVID-19 had other plans.
Mi bin sim draws lo end of last year osem pamipleontem champion blo Philippines Ronald Aldea. Fight blo mi should come up lo April this year, but due to COVID, we'll postpone him come to September, and then September narva lockdown ken, so we'll postpone him come ugatalo end of the year. So end of the year now, so mi plago look stop it, mi plago wait lo Oceania Fight Promotion lo put him update.
With the countless delays, Junior and his team are still focused, training at the mixed martial arts gym, ready for their title shot.
Efraim Montoru trainer blomi na Nelson John. M2 trainer blomi. Coach blomi Jamie Peng where no stop on temi pla. Jamie Peng head coach blomi pla where sa game instruction lo tupla lo one something lo one pla make him lo training blom pla every morning now. Technical trainer blomi where mitla sa work lo technique na condition na speed trainer blomi where mitla sa go work lo techniques one time speed na condition.
Not only is he training alone, hitting the bags and the pads, but with a few sparring sessions in between to keep his in-ring fitness.
Pro boxers outside, mi plus sa invite mo lo ring. But alamat sas, mi plus sa go and ask him all. Head coach blongol lo sim sparring one time all every Wednesday lo aquatic center.
For Raka to be in peak form for the bout, he has been in a strict training regime and also a strict diet. But with further delay to his WBC sanctioned bout, it has been tough.
Diet blooming all this la and been ups and down because lo some side blow finance, lo side blow training all this la, so been stuff. But me talk thank you lo Sensory Hotel na Rapopo where whole on time Peng family where only supporting me.
Raka's dream of a title bout may be slipping, but not his determination. This shot could open up more doors outside of Papua New Guinea. The Athletics Championship in West New Britain was staged at the Sasindran Muthuvel Stadium in Kimbe last weekend. It is a lead-up to the National Championships to be held in Port Moresby in December.
With little competition having been held around the country this year, Athletics PNG took the opportunity to fly in a number of targeted national squad athletes for the West New Britain Provincial Championships in order to assist their preparations for the National Championships, which will be held next month. The highlight of the weekend was a sensational 200-meter time of 21.15 seconds by Leroy Kamau, eclipsing the time set at the 2015 Pacific Games by his coach Nelson Stone, which was at the time the fastest 200-meter ever recorded by a PNG athlete on home soil. Athletics PNG President Tony Green commended the local association for its commitment this year to implementing programs and conducting many local competitions in challenging circumstances. Athletes are now in preparation towards the PNG Air National Championships to be staged in Port Moresby from December 4th to the 6th. Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
And still to come in Trukai Sports, netball and cricket. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
And welcome back to Trukai Sports. A new tier level competition will be in effect come 2021 for Netball PNG. This is according to Netball PNG board, should pave a way for selecting the best netball athletes at the national level.
An introduction of a new competition and amendments to the Netball PNG Constitution. These are the outcomes of Netball PNG's 2020 annual general meeting held over the weekend.
We've just introduced some new changes that we intend to implement in 2021.
Constitutional amendments included board members' remunerations and service periods, among others.
Because there were some provisions that weren't workable to suit the current situation that the federation is in, and we've removed some provisions that, for example, the disqualification provisions. We've gone back to the old system where a director can hold two positions.
The highlight of the 2020 AGM was the introduction of a new tier competition.
Introduction of provincial championships. So we've actually, the board and the council have given us the blessing to do that.
With the current system, netball associations are affiliated at district levels. The new tier system allows for a creation of a provincial association, under which active associations clustered under district levels are to be affiliated. The provincial association will be expected to run a 3-day tournament to scout and form a provincial team. This team will then compete in the inaugural provincial tournament set for June 2021. Independent Director and Legal Lead Roy Molina believes this new tier competition should pave way for selecting the best in the code.
We feel that at the national championships, only the best teams should be represented at the national level.
Netball PNG Secretary Cory Navuru reiterates these sentiments.
A great impact because it's going to, we've got the mass participation at the bottom already, but when we come to the provincial, we kind of maximize the selection process, but we pick out a very best crop to represent their provinces in the national championships.
Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
And to cricket abroad, one of the most talked about players in New Zealand's domestic cricket scene is in line for the Black Caps debut, with the squad's announcement for the first time for the first match of the summer.
A full summer of cricket's all but here.
I know we'll be the envy of many other places around the world that our grounds will have crowds there.
And there'll be some new and highly touted talent on display, headed by impressive Wellington batsman Devon Conway.
If you're putting the results on the board and you ride the wave for as long as possible, and luckily the T20 call-up has come my way.
And last season's revelation, Kyle Jamieson.
You've been focused on the red ball stuff and kind of, I guess, had my sights set on there a little bit, so to be in the T20 squad's hugely exciting.
A move to Canterbury's paid off for Daryl Mitchell, who'll make his T20 return. With the T20s up first, Stead will be able to call on the IPL firepower of Lockie Ferguson, Jimmy Neesham, Mitchell Santner and Tim Seifert, who will have left mandatory isolation at the perfect time. And they'll be needed as Stead juggles the squads between those T20s and the following tests.
We actually have our test squad assembling that day as well. That's the first time, I guess, in history that's happened for New Zealand cricket.
That's precisely why both Kane Williamson and Trent Boult will only play red ball cricket.
The priority for us being around the test matches. We know that if we can get victories in 4 test matches this summer, we're giving ourselves the best chance of getting to the World Test Championship final.
And we'll soon get an indication of how challenging those games might be, with the West Indies opening their tour against New Zealand A in Queenstown on Friday.
And that story wraps up Trukai Sports. Charmaine will be back with the weather report for the next 24 hours. Bye for now.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
Weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Port Moresby, partly cloudy with possible showers and thunder, then fine. Daru, a few showers, then fine, partly cloudy. Kerema, thundery showers, then cloudy. Alotau, fine, partly cloudy with evening showers. And Popondetta, partly cloudy with evening rain showers.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
The way it is this Tuesday, the 17th of November 2020, on behalf of the news team, good night.